Collapse radiation and the Eurosky low-emission infectious disease. The Eurosky low-emission infectious disease, or simply ELID, from the games Girls Frontline, Girls Frontline 2 Exilium, and Reverse Collapse codename Bakery, is a condition resulting from prolonged exposure to radiation from collapse fluid. Collapse fluid, in short, is exotic matter used to distribute the attractive and repulsive states of particles. Collapse fluid is not actually a fluid, however, but rather a particle wave expanding in the matter to be compressed, stopping its spread once it has achieved a state of quantum stability. Collapse radiation emits bottom quarks and photons, which are produced when collapse fluid permeates matter. Collapse fluid possesses a dangerous aspect of building up heat when under significant amounts of pressure. An explosion will result once pressure reaches an unspecified threshold. This property is responsible for the Balin Island incident and other similar smaller-scale disasters throughout history. This reaction is also what makes prolonged exposure to collapse fluid harmful to the human body, as it acts similar to a cancer or parasitic infection as it spreads throughout the body unless properly treated. The level of collapse radiation in a given area will affect the speed of infection as well as its severity. In other words, the more collapse radiation, the faster and more severe the ELID infection. While most people of average constitution will die of ELID within 24 to 48 hours if not treated immediately, some people with higher constitutions, such as soldiers, can survive an untreated ELID infection for significantly longer before succumbing to either death or mutating into something akin to a living zombie within 61 hours. Common symptoms of ELID infection include coughing up blood, migraines, and stomach pains, as well as sensations akin to one's bones piercing through their skin. One Griffin and Kruger commander is quoted to have said, "I have experienced the sensation of being exposed to collapse radiation. It was as if my bones were piercing through my skin. My entire body was in agony, like it was being torn apart." Other symptoms include convulsions, fatigue, radiation burns, and periods of unconsciousness. If someone infected with ELID is able to survive the initial stages of infection but does not receive treatment, their bodies will undergo further and more severe changes. Their muscles and blood vessels will harden as they undergo silification, resulting in their bodies increasingly stiffening up. Infected people's minds will also progressively deteriorate until they resort to their basic aggressive survival instincts. It must be noted that the mutated cells, as a result of ELID infection, will not only continue their mitosis, but also produce a new cell organelle that releases further collapse radiation. As a result, infected organisms become a new vector of collapse radiation contamination. This means that all infected are highly transmissible. Due to this, direct contact with a contaminated individual is dangerous even if they have not zombified. ELID will also cause an increase in red blood cell count and decrease in white blood cell count, which leads to immunosuppression. This imbalance in red and white blood cells cripples the immune system, preventing it from effectively fighting off the now mutated cells producing CF radiation, in turn leading to more cells being mutated. This, plus environmental contamination, is how mutated cells propagate. As the mutation progresses, white and red blood cells count return to normal, but immune response is lost. Those affected by advanced ELID infection experience further physical changes, such as bluish-green skin and extremely fast aging made evident by geriatric wrinkles and crow's feet on the face. At this stage of ELID, it will become increasingly difficult to breathe. The body will undergo significant muscular atrophy and show very unstable vital signs. Furthermore, the amino acids within the infected body will decompose, connective tissues will break down, red blood cell count falls rapidly along with blood oxygen carrying capacity. Changes to the infected skeletal structure will also occur. and with increased calcification, the density and hardness of the bones can reach numbers up to 400 HB, far beyond conventional steel. During the advanced stages of ELID infection, if one does not die within the first 24 to 48 hours, they will lose all sense of self and become something akin to zombies, although still entirely alive. Depending on the individual infected, their body's general health prior to infection, and the amount of radiation they have been exposed to, they will mutate into various different forms of ELID infected. People who have been transformed into zombies by ELID are rendered blind due to body calcification, and as such are attracted to sound and movement instead to aid navigation. It has been noted that ELID are not attracted to sounds or movements produced by other ELIDs. This would imply that they have some knowledge of the difference between infected and non-infected. ELIDs seem to attack everything but themselves indiscriminately and become more aggressive the longer that they have been infected. Some ELID zombies even seem to retain a certain degree of muscle memory, as some soldiers that have undergone mutation into these zombies are able to fire their weapons, albeit haphazardly. However, it has been discovered that ELID zombies are not capable of more complex actions like launching grenades. ELID infected always appear to be in an aggressive, berserk state, with their feral bites and wild flailing being considerably dangerous, especially when further enhanced by collapse radiation in the environment. Often appearing with ELID zombie soldiers who have been extensively exposed to collapse radiation, these infected will undergo significant skin and internal organ mutations that make them both larger and more resilient than other infected, becoming what is commonly known as smashers. If an ELID zombie is able to remain in a radiated area for a significant period of time, they may undergo enough mutations to be considered a D-class ELID. D-class ELID are infected that have mutated to a point of no longer being human and instead take on the form of a monstrous creature. All forms of ELID zombie or infected mutation obtain great bodily resistances even in early stages. As a result, it takes up to 7 handgun rounds to bring one standard ELID zombie down, and even specialized weapons have difficulty destroying D-class ELIDs. Within contaminated zones, ELID ecosystems begin to exist. Animals besides humans are also affected by ELID and undergo mutations of their own. The ELID-infected wild animals are called ELID Silence Dread by contaminated zone residents due to their high-frequency roars. Some residents also call them living skeletons or hollows due to their unique appearance. These two names have gradually been replaced by ELID-infected as the common name for organisms displaying severe pathological changes due to ELID. Notable examples of ELID-infected animals include bears and boars with hardened hides and protruding fangs and tusks, deers with antlers up to 4 meters tall, massive spiders which spit corrosive acid, and even hares known as obsidian hares with silicification on parts of their bodies coupled with a terrifying maw. Besides animals, various flora are also known to have been affected by collapse radiation and ELID, resulting in silicated terrain and crystalline trees becoming a common sight. One notable example of flora affected by ELID is the Queen of the Night epiphyllum flower, which can grow within contaminated environments and absorb collapse radiation in the area. By absorbing the local radiation, the epiphyllum can lower the local contamination level. However, once the flower blooms, all collected collapse radiation is dispersed in the area, leading to a sharp increase in contamination. It is important to understand that there is no cure once an infected individual has fully mutated into an ELID-infected creature. There is also nothing that directly cures radiation sickness from exposure to collapse fluid. Although there are treatments to ease or fight off one's infection. Should you get infected with ELID and are able to receive treatment in time, commonly a form of therapy is used that helps strengthen a patient's antibodies and fend off the illness. An anti-ELID vaccine has also been produced and has proven successful in reducing overall infections. If you're lucky, you may even be immune, or at least partially immune. If only partially immune, you will still need to undergo treatment, especially if exposed to high amounts of collapse radiation, or for a long period of time. Knowing this information, it is very important to establish the correct procedures to protect oneself from ELID infection, as well as face off against the threats it produces. With this, I hope you have come closer to understanding collapse radiation and the Eurosky low-emission infectious disease and the significant threat it poses to all life on Earth.